Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to Kalbe Momina, a channel dedicated to spreading the light of Islamic knowledge and wisdom. Today, we delve into the profound teachings and lessons from the early days of Islam, where the bonds of brotherhood and unity laid the foundation of a strong and resilient community. As we journey through the stories of the Sahaba, Allah anhum, and the guidance of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we will explore the divine wisdom behind the establishment of the Muwahhat in Medina, the treaty with the Jews, and the challenges faced by the early Muslims. These events hold timeless lessons for us all. Join us as we reflect on these significant moments, drawing inspiration for our own lives and strengthening our faith in the process. Let's begin this enlightening journey together. One night, Angel Jibril alayhi salam came and said to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, "Come with me." He mounted the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, on Burak, a swift mount. From there, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was taken to Masjid al-Aqsa, where Angel Jibril called the Adhan, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, led all the prophets in prayer. Later, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was taken from Masjid al-Aqsa to the heavens. He ascended to Sidrat al-Muntaha, during which he was shown both paradise and hell. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, met with Allah Almighty and returned with the gift of prayer. When the Quraysh heard the next morning that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had gone on the Miraj, they mocked him. The first to affirm the truth of this journey was Abu Bakr, Razi Allah anhu, who earned the title as Siddiq because of this. The beginning of Islam in Medina. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, used to invite the tribes that came to Makkah during Hajj to accept Islam. On several such occasions, people from Medina met the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in the valley of Mina, accepted Islam, and pledged their support. This is known as the first and second pledge of Aqaba. Later, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sent the young companion Musab ibn Umair, Razi Allah anhu, to Medina at the request of its people to teach them the commands of Islam. The migration to Medina. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, ordered his companions to migrate to Medina. In response, the companions left their ancestral homes and properties behind and set out for Medina empty-handed. The Quraysh considered the companions' migration a significant threat, and the idea of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also reaching Medina was intolerable to them. Hence, the Quraysh held an emergency meeting to discuss what to do with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Iblis was also present at the meeting in the guise of an old man. Various suggestions were made. Some proposed exile, while others suggested imprisonment. Iblis said, "After exile, he may gather an army and attack you, and if imprisoned, his followers may launch an assault on you." Then Abu Jahl suggested that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, should be killed, God forbid, in such a way that one person from each tribe would be present at the scene, so that no one could be held accountable for the murder, and the matter could be settled by paying blood money. Iblis praised this suggestion, and it was decided upon. The Quraysh surrounded the house of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, after midnight. Meanwhile, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had already been commanded by Allah to migrate. He entrusted Ali, Razi Allah anhu, with the belongings of others, had him sleep in his bed, and safely left the house. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, then went to the house of Abu Bakr, Razi Allah anhu, and the two set off at night towards the mountain of Thar. They took refuge in a cave in that mountain. When the Quraysh discovered that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had already left, and that Ali, Razi Allah anhu, was sleeping in his bed, they were alarmed and began monitoring all routes closely to prevent anyone from leaving. Moreover, a reward of 100 camels was announced for the capture of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Many expert trackers set out in pursuit of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, for the reward. The incident of the cave. Abu Bakr Razi Allah anhu entered the cave first and cleaned it. There were many holes in the cave, which he covered, except for one, which he blocked with his heel, as he had nothing else to use. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, rested his head on Abu Bakr's lap and fell asleep. While the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, slept, something stung Abu Bakr, causing tears of pain to fall onto the blessed face of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, awakening him. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, applied his blessed saliva to Abu Bakr's, Razi Allah anhu, heel, and all the pain disappeared. They stayed in that cave for 3 days. During these 3 days, Abu Bakr's Razi Allah anhu's son, Abdullah, would secretly visit them at night, informing them of the Quraysh's plans and returning before dawn. Abu Bakr's Razi Allah anhu daughter, Asma bin Abi Bakr, Razi Allah anha, would bring food, and her slave would drive sheep over their tracks to erase their footprints. Abu Bakr, Razi Allah anhu, had purchased 2 camels for this journey. On the 3rd day, his servant Amir arrived with the camels, accompanied by Abdullah bin Arqat, whom they had hired as a guide. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, rode 1 camel, while Abu Bakr Razi Allah anhu and his servant rode the other, with Abdullah bin Arqat leading the way. Thus, the 4 of them set out for Medina. Important events during the journey. Many people were searching for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in hopes of claiming the reward for his capture. Among them was Seerah bin Malik, who managed to catch up to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, but as he approached, his horse's legs sank into the ground and he fell off. During this journey, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also passed by Muhamad Kuzayya. She had a goat that was too weak to walk. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, touched its udders, and they filled with milk. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions drank the milk, leaving plenty behind for her. Buraida Aslami, the leader of his tribe, also set out in pursuit of the reward. But after meeting the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and conversing with him, he was so impressed that he immediately accepted Islam along with his entire tribe. Arrival at Kuba. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, arrived in Kuba on a Monday, the 8th of Rabi al-Awwal. According to Qadi Salman Mansur Puri, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was 53 years old at the time. The Ansar of Medina, having heard of the Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, departure, would come out every morning to await his arrival and return disappointed each evening. On this day, they had already returned when suddenly the news spread that the awaited one had arrived. People rushed to welcome the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He stayed in Kuba for a few days, during which a mosque was built. The Quran refers to this mosque as founded on piety from the very first day. This was the first mosque in Islam. Arrival in Medina. The day the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, entered Medina was a radiant day. Girls sang songs of joy at his arrival. Every Ansari hoped that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would stay at his house. But the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Leave my camel, for she is under divine command. Wherever she sits, that will be my abode." The camel sat down in the neighborhood of Banu Najjar, near the house of Abu Ayyub Ansari, Razi Allah anhu, where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stayed. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, first built a mosque, the land for which was owned by 2 orphan boys. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, purchased the land from them and personally took part in the construction of the mosque. Alongside the mosque, a few rooms were built with walls of mud bricks and roofs made of palm tree trunks. The Pact of Brotherhood in Medina. When the companions, Razi Allah anhum, migrated from Mecca, they arrived empty-handed, without a permanent place to stay. In this situation, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, established a bond of brotherhood among the Muslims that is unparalleled in history. A total of 90 companions, Razi Allah anhum, were paired together in this brotherhood. This bond was not just a matter of promises and hollow slogans, but rather, it was implemented with such beauty, and the Ansar, the helpers, acted with such generosity that it remains a shining example for all time. For instance, there was a bond of brotherhood between Hazrat Abdul Rahman bin Auf Razi Allah anhu and Hazrat Saad bin Rabi Razi Allah anhu. Hazrat Saad Razi Allah anhu offered Hazrat Abdul Rahman Razi Allah anhu, "I am the wealthiest of the Ansar. Take half of my wealth. I have 2 wives. I will divorce one so that you can marry her." Hazrat Abdul Rahman bin Auf Razi Allah anhu replied, "May Allah bless your wealth and family. Just show me the way to the market, and I will manage on my own." Similarly, some of the Ansar requested the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to distribute their date orchards among the migrant companions, Razi Allah anhum, but the migrants refused to accept them. The treaty with the Jews. In Medina, two primary groups resided. One was the polytheists, consisting of two tribes, Aus and Khazraj. However, the majority of them had already embraced Islam. The second group was the people of the book, the Jews. Before the advent of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they eagerly awaited the arrival of the last prophet, saying, "We will believe in him." But when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was sent, despite recognizing the truth, they hesitated to accept Islam. The reason for their refusal was only tribal pride, as they wondered why the last prophet was sent from the descendants of Ismail instead of the descendants of Isaac. Nevertheless, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made a treaty with the Jews to secure Medina. The purpose of the treaty was to prevent any conflict between Muslims and Jews. If anyone else attacked one of the parties, the other party would support their ally. If any new matter arose or any dispute occurred, the decision would be made by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Preventing Muslims from performing tawaf. After the migration to Medina, Hazrat Sa'd bin Mu'adh, Raziallah anhu, went to Mecca for Umrah and stayed as a guest at the house of Umayyah bin Khalaf. One afternoon, as he went out to perform tawaf, circumambulation of the Kaaba, Abu Jahl saw him and asked Umayyah, "Who is this?" When he found out, Abu Jahl said, "If you were not under the protection of Abu Safwan, Umayyah bin Khalaf, you would not have returned home safely." Hearing this, Hazrat Sa'd, Raziallah anhu, replied, "If you try to prevent me from performing tawaf, I will stop something that would be even more painful for you, i.e., the trade caravan that passes through Medina on its way to Syria." Moreover, the Quraysh issued various threats to the migrants and did not just stop at threats, but also made actual attempts to harm them. This is why the companions, Raziallah anhum, stood guard outside the blessed chamber of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, for an extended period. Later, when the verse of the Quran was revealed, "Allah will protect you from the people," the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, ordered the guards to stop. Permission for jihad. In these dangerous circumstances, Allah granted Muslims permission to fight for their protection. This marked the beginning of a series of military expeditions. Those in which the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, personally participated are called Ghazwa, and those where the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, appointed a companion, Razi Allah anhu, to lead without participating himself are called Sariyah. It should be noted that among the battles and expeditions, there were also missions where advances were made towards the enemy, but no battle took place. To be continued. Thank you for watching. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to stay updated with our latest content. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you in the next video.